inclusion.
We
in the
started
city.
with an instigating topic.
Sure.
But we've come together, and the importance of having Deck and I with you, and not just the chiefs, is that one important topic shed a light on a lot of other issues, and that we want to work together, and we have a moral obligation as your communities to help solve those issues.
So we're here today to have a conversation that we've been having over the last year about relationships in our community and the selection of equity and inclusion, starting from right after the George Floyd incident and now for the full year of trying to find ways by which we collaborate and have conversations with each other. Corey and I were asked to come into the conversation shortly after it started because as city administrators, I think you all felt that it gave more authority, if you will, more ability for us to help shape the narrative about what we're doing. And so we thought today we'd just have this conversation amongst us about how you feel that's going and anything you want to ask us about our involvement in this process.
Absolutely. LULAC was invited by NAACP to take part of the conversation. I think NAACP saw the need for action and to start the conversation, and they invited LULAC along, which LULAC embraced the opportunity to be able to sit at the table with our partners, with NAACP, with police departments, and then with both the City of Davenport and the City of Bettendorf to talk about the concerns that are within our community. Started off with policing, but those conversations have grown larger to other concerns, such as the violence we see within our communities, concerns about equity, inclusion, and the conversations shifting to what can we do to address those concerns? What can we do together as partners, collaboratively, to make it better? So.
And I just think it's an extraordinary opportunity to have this partnership, the collaborative effort to be able to sit down at the table and have this conversation on a bi-weekly basis to discuss public safety, to talk about the things that are happening around the country, and then to be able to talk about things to prevent those events from happening here in Scott County. And it allows us to even talk about police reform even in a larger spectrum, and for the city administrators from Davenport and Bettendorf, and to have the support of the mayor of each one of these cities, it's just extraordinary, and it gives us the opportunity to work through these issues. And I'm really excited about it, and I know that we don't always agree on everything, but guess what? We can continue to talk about those things that we disagree on, and work so that it is admirable, that it works out for us in the long run, and it's a better solution for the community.
And I think when we came together last summer, it was after an absolute tragic event, an event that our children will forever know as a pivotal point in time. And so to start with law enforcement and to say, what are we doing here to make sure we don't have those experiences? And we spent many, many months, many Tuesdays together going through policies and procedures, and what are those things that we've done maybe proactively as organizations and communities, and what's left to be done. You know, the fact that we've had body cameras and dash cams for many, many years, when that was supposed to be something that, you know, if we think the 8 can't wait, we've done that. We have really good policies in place, and where we got better, where we as your governments got to talk about, is making sure the county and Davenport and Bettendorf could align our policies so that regardless of where you were on a map, government boundaries really only exist on a map, that our citizens, our community, would have a shared sense of understanding of what to expect, and that as we're interacting with the public, that they know the cameras are there to protect everyone involved. They know what use of force, what happens when there's a use of force, that it is reviewed, that it just doesn't happen and nobody talks about it. So to be able to share some of the things our agencies were doing already, I think from a transparency standpoint, helped your organizations really start to understand we took this seriously before last June, and we only want to get better with you.
Absolutely. One thing that it allows us to continue to do is to have accountability, to have transparency, and when we talk, it gives us an opportunity to discuss what's going on in our community, and just to have that support from key officials within the city and county. It just makes it much easier to talk, to come to some type of agreement, and even when we, like I said earlier, even when we don't, we can continue to talk. And I'm excited about where we are going. I know it's not a perfect situation now, but we can continue to work and make things better.
You know, I think it's hard to get upset with someone when you know them.
Sure.
It's easy to do it when you don't know them. But when you know somebody and you have a relationship with them, you tend to want to foster that relationship, or certainly not offend that relationship. And I think that's the beauty of what's going on now, is that we now know each other a lot better than we did, and in some cases we never did. We didn't know everybody in the room.
Absolutely.
And so now having those conversations with people that you know, it's easier to say, we can agree on this, or we can't agree on that. And to your point, Mike, when nobody gets upset about that, and frankly, I think we've agreed 95% of the time.
Sure.
Because I think people understand each other.
Absolutely. And I was going to agree with Mike that this partnership, it's, in my opinion, it is the first step towards true community policing. And it's going to build the trust. It's going to ensure that transparency and then provide for accountability. And I think that's something the community does want to see, regardless of what side of the issue you stand on. There can't be anyone that says that us working together is not a good thing and a step in the right direction.
And I think we know our community has challenges, and sometimes the policing side is the reaction to those challenges, and I think that's, for me, the important part of having Decker and I here with you, is that if we're only talking about what happens in a reactionary, the law enforcement is a reactionary service. It's the nature of what it is. If we don't have meaningful conversations, and Jasmine, we were just talking about literacy and how important those fundamental things are, and the equity of access to safe neighborhoods and all of those things, those really courageous conversations were born out of a conversation about law enforcement. And we have, I think, the opportunity as community leaders to really transform our children's futures. And if there's a great goal, I think that is absolutely one I take personally anyway.
Absolutely.
And I do think what I find encouraging is, as we have these broader conversations about Q 2030 and support of the United Way and things that we're doing community-wide, by us having these relationships, the thought process of inclusion in those bountiful conversations and those efforts are only going to make us as a community strive, because to the point you're making, we're bringing everybody to the table. When we had the big table conversations, we had a lot of people at the table that were helping with that. This is a way to keep them at the table, and we all prosper when everybody's at the table.
Absolutely. I mean, when we bring everyone to the table, you're bringing a multitude of perspectives. You're bringing people from all walks of life, and that perspective can certainly shape how we see things. And when we're discussing solutions, it does help to have people looking at it from different angles. And absolutely, Corey, this is more than just policing and law enforcement, because we have to dig deeper at the root cause of a lot of these issues. We got to look at housing. We have to look at poverty. We have to look at education. I mean, the stats are out there. If a child's not reading at grade level by 3rd grade, statistically, they're not going to do well later on in life. So as a group, our focus is broader than simply just what our police departments are doing. That became the start, and that's something that we're working on. And I think over the last year, it was an accomplishment to have Bettendorf PD, Davenport PD, and Scott County all evaluate their policies and their use of force policies and align with each other, because now we're all on the same page, as you said, regardless of your zip code. I mean, those lines are just now imaginary boundaries. You're going to be treated the same under the same policy. But that was just a starting point. We're looking at what can we do, as a community, what can we do together to make our community better? What can we do to address issues? What can we do to help to make sure we have universal pre-K in our community? What can we do to make sure we're working on poverty, that people have affordable housing? And we're going to address all those issues. And these issues are not any that a single entity or organization or government can take on. It does take us working together, which is the best part of this partnership and collaboration.
And the last thing that I would say is that when we work together, it makes things better for this community when we have community involvement that works with law enforcement and that works with other agencies, and it just makes it gives an atmosphere that everybody is being included, and we, the community, you, the city administrators, the mayor, are taking it all serious.
LULAC came forth willing to be a part of the conversation, to listen. In the beginning, we didn't necessarily envision that it would continue on. Even in the first couple meetings, we thought it was, a couple conversations regarding, hey, what are the policies here? What are the use of force policies? That sort of stuff that was prompted by a national call for reform. But as we kept reconvening every other Tuesday and kept having the conversation grew deeper. And I think over time, trust started to be built, which is very important. And I think the partnership formed on essentially naturally on its own as the dialogue continued and grew. And I think one thing we were quick to realize is that everybody sitting at that table had one thing in common. Mm-hmm. They all cared to make this community better. They all realized there's room for improvement. No one sitting at the table said, oh, we're doing everything perfect and there's nothing we can do to make it better. So everyone's on the same page, so to speak, and wanting to make it better. And I think it just happened that, where we're at today, where we formalized an actual partnership, and we look forward to working together for the betterment of our community.